going on that's not being ignored, like, because it seems like in the storyline this season of America,
yeah,
this week's episode is focused on Jussie Smollett, this week's episode is focused on Kim
this
Kardashian
guy and his
or
violence, this
whatever,
you
know. But I do think once I saw the whole kind of thing unravel, I was like, wow, the dude's just totally gonna get off, and then he's still claiming to be innocent.
But I think about like these how would you call it, these events that are just, are they just pop up out there, cost, I guess he's out, the donors are out the $10,000 or whatever, and there's some people that'll be like, oh, he probably didn't do it, because if he'd done it, they would have found him, they would have charged him with something. So
just to add an update to that,
simmers out
I did
there.
see that the Chicago police are actually suing him.
Oh,
for the amount, because they said this is the amount of money we put into the investigation, and now that he's been found not guilty, we basically just spent all that money for no reason, even though they still feel like they have enough of a case to bring against him. So, interesting stuff. If you don't mind, man, I'd like to tell you guys a little bit about what I was doing this weekend. It kind of relates to our story. 1 second.
He's messing with his mouth. He got mouth things.
Yeah, I have a...
Oh, wow.
I have one less tooth now for the moment, and I can't really talk right with this thing in there. But this past weekend, the reason I was out of town last Friday, and then on Monday, I went to Arizona to hang out with a few friends. A buddy of mine, Roberts, he has a organization, a group, I don't know how he would refer to it, but it's called G3, and it's kind of like, he's a business, it's definitely a business, but they offer services for activists, so they try to partner with, say, like the Anti-Media, excuse me, or the Free Thought Project, and some of these alternative independent media websites, and say, hey, we can help get you optimized, social media, whatnot. And for those who've been following our show for, quite some time, we just joined the FM site in January, but you may be aware, you may not be aware, that back in October, Facebook purged like 300, 400, 500 websites, most of them independent alternative media websites, like that had 3 million, 4 million. A lot of them were police accountability websites, pages, anti-war pages, and these pages weren't Russian bots. They weren't spreading fake news. They were just, I guess, challenging the narrative that Facebook and their buddies don't want to be promoted. So this weekend I met with like the head of the Anti-Media, some of the team behind Mint Press News, just the teams, the kind of collective of who's still left 6, 7, 8 months later after the purge, who's still pushing and trying to overcome the algorithmic censorship via Facebook and social media. But it was a really cool meeting of the minds, like brains coming together and just thinking like, what can we do? What can we do to not only overcome these things? It's similar to what we did in January with the summit of Alternative Media Summit. This was kind of like a smaller group, just about 5 or 6 people who represent the Mind Unleashed, the Anti-Media, Mint Press News, and me representing, Freethinker Radio and the Conscious Resistance. And so it was cool. We were in Arizona for a couple of days of just brainstorming. We also went on a hike in Sedona, and then we went to the gun range. So a couple of like friendship building, relationship building activities. And I'm really excited. That's all I really will say now. And you guys continue to listen to our show in the coming weeks and months. You'll hear more news on that. But it does seem like some good news is on the horizon for overcoming censorship and for continuing to work to educate people. And also, in the interest of decentralized, uncensored social media, we had a meeting with one of the co-founders of Minds.com. If you've never heard of Minds.com, just like it sound like your mind, open your minds. .com. It's an alternative social media network, social network that's decentralized, built on a blockchain, and it's really cool. So if you've never heard of that, check that out if you're looking for alternative platform from Facebook and some of the traditional ones, because that's something that I post on, and we'll go ahead and make a Freethinker Radio Facebook Minds page as well to just connect with more people. So yeah, just looking for alternative solutions like we do here on Freethinker Radio, looking for alternative ideas, alternative solutions, and ways to get out of the centralized systems that I think typically don't really care about us. One other thing I want to mention just in relation to social media, we started this a couple weeks ago, but I didn't really get a chance to say it on air, I don't think. But if you are interested in joining our text list, we have a text list for Freethinker Radio now, where you can just get a text update to your phone that tells you, hey, Freethinker Radio is about to start. Or
you could get your grandma's phone and you could text.
Sign your grandma up. If you want to sign your grandma up, just text at FTR Houston, so Freethinker Radio Houston, to 81010. So just pull up your phone, type in 81. I mean,
will she get your grandma or whatever?
We have,
get a
well, we have
reminder?
our shows on Mondays and Fridays, so at the least you'll get a text like 5 to 10 minutes before saying, "Hey, we're about to go live," and maybe we'll send out some of the articles, make like our top stories. So just a few texts a week. It's not going to be any spam or anything overwhelming. But yeah, the number is 81010. So just text to that number at the symbol FTR Houston.
It's a way to get a reminder so that you can join in on the dialogue. And there's so many things that we talk about.
And you can text back to that number. Like the cool thing is we're not going to see your number. You don't see our number. It's just through this app. But if you wanted to like text back and like, you guys are crazy, you're totally wrong, and I hate your show, we'll get those texts.
Yeah, we'll make you sad inside. And I do want to bring up one quick point here on this show. I've heard a couple of people sweating our great producer Johnny, because he's asking them what they're calling about or something along those lines. And the station manager came through and talked to me and said, at the end of the day, you get all these people, and it's funny because he brought it up. He's like, you're going to get all these people that call, and a lot of them call regularly, and it's your show, and there's nothing wrong with screening them because it's a show, and you want to be able to direct the content of the show. So it's not that we're so much screening them to like weed out people's ideas as much as to see if you're going to talk about something that's pertinent to the show, and or a way we can frame it. Because
we only have an hour, so I mean, it's kind of like we got to maximize
with that
our
on
time.
mind. Call 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738.
It's like I'm having to sort of learn to speak again with like, it's weird how just one single tooth being taken from you can really affect the way you speak.
You sound different.
I know. I'm getting used to it. It just happened yesterday morning. I was all gassed up. But I was thinking of you guys while I was gassed up. I was like, I hope I'm better by tomorrow to get to the radio show. And here I am. So, I mean, what's going on locally, Micah?
All kinds of craziness. I guess you've heard about these skimmer things just in a quick news thing. I'm not going to go too far into it. They found these skimmers. They basically take money off your credit card. Maybe another reason to use cash or something. Or at least, try to use cash sometimes. They've been finding them around a lot of gas pumps and such. They found 25 more addresses, but they weren't just gas pumps.
What do you mean skimmers?
Like you put your credit card in, you think you're buying gas, but they're stealing part of your money on top of it.
Taken somewhere else or something?
Yep. So now they found them at a McDonald's, a downtown hotel, a bank, a credit union. So you think a bank and a credit union? Yep.
So I mean, like, if I'm going to pay my gas, like, and you're saying I just slide it in like normal,
but
for some reason there's like something in there that like they've hacked into the system, or they put like
it's like an extra piece of hardware, I believe. They were talking a little bit about it. The data reflects. Let's see, I'm trying to read if it tells us about portions of police records only indicated different cases in which skimmers were located, not the exact number of skimmers located in each case. So you could have one gas station with every pump with a skimmer on it. So you can get out in there and find out more about it. Skimming generally involves a device that extracts data straight from the credit card at the point of sale, most commonly found on ATMs or gas pumps, and they basically preferred medium for people that plant skimmers. So I don't want to go too far into it, but if you see something weird with an ATM, you might, or a gas pump, it looks like something's wrong with where you put your card, or it looks like something extra is attached, you might not want to do that, because you could actually, lose some money, and I don't know, it's just one of those things. And also, city sent out layoff notices to 66 fire cadets. All of this in relation to Prop B, right?
Oh yeah, I did see that news. So I actually I got the press releases that the mayor sent out last night, and in the sort of response press release from the police chief, I can read through those. But those who have been listening, that this has been an ongoing battle here in the city. The mayor is 8 months away from facing re-election, and he is getting a lot of heat from his resistance to implementing Proposition B, which would give the firefighters a raise. And of course he's saying that it's because, the city's already in debt, and because the voters who voted for it didn't give them a mechanism for how to do it. They just said, hey, pass this because we want it.
And they didn't give them a mechanism for most of what they have to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're the people, you're in power, quote unquote. So this is the press release from the mayor's office that came out last night.
It's your job.
Proposition B came without a funding source, as it adds $80 million to $100 million a year to the city's bottom line. At the same time, the city is experiencing a $117 million budget gap, with the cost of Prop B on top of that. By law, the city must balance its budget before the start of the next fiscal year on July 1st. So he's got to balance the budget when they're already $117 million, in debt and kind of budget gap, and now he's saying this is going to add another $80 to $100 million. And so he says, we asked Patrick Langton.
With some of the numbers we've seen, that $80 to $100 million, I'm not trying to say it's not a lot, but, we've seen the city spend some money.
Oh, the city throws money around. I don't know what, like right now, for example, I was just talking about, like, the Verizon trucks are, like, right across from the radio station installing 5G. They have so far refused to tell the people of Houston and any city. Verizon hasn't announced how much the agreement's costing. Like, what is the city paying? What is Verizon paying as far as installing 5G? So there's a lot of different areas they could probably cut back on. So the mayor says, quote, the city asked Patrick Langton of the Firefighters Association to phase in Prop B over 5 years to avoid any layoffs. He refused and is demanding the immediate implementation of Prop B. And the city is going to do that, but this will require layoffs. And then yesterday, the 67 fire cadets, so these are the new firefighters who've been waiting to come into employment, received a notice that they'll be laid off within 60 days. And next week, he says 47 more municipal workers will receive notices. And on April 17th, City Council will vote on even more layoffs. And he says, in the absence of a phased-in approach, the city's options are limited, and we must balance our budget by the end of June. So he's basically blaming it on the fire chief and the head of the Firefighters Association. And so here's a response that came from Fire Chief Samuel Pena of the Houston Fire Department. Today, regrettably, due to the financial impact of implementing Prop B, we began the reduction in force process by issuing a 60-day layoff notice to each of the 67 fire cadets. It is an action I hoped we would not take, but on the other hand, we cannot ignore the cost of Prop B. Bridging the $20 million reduction in the HFD budget has forced me to make some extremely difficult decisions. The layoffs are effective June 7, 2019, and in the 60-day interim, I hope that an agreement can be reached with the fire union that will allow us to rescind the layoff notices, swear in cadets, and focus on continuing the efficient delivery of service. And he says the best way to honor the will of the voters is to pay our firefighters and minimize the impact is to phase in full implementation of Prop B. So again, the Firefighters Association and the fire chief are telling the mayor to phase it in, like full on implementation. And the mayor's like, no, we should do this over 5 years, and that could maybe prevent layoffs. But now he's saying, the layoffs are going to come in the next 60 days. So this is probably, I would say, is going to affect the mayoral race as it moves forward. It doesn't really start happening until the summertime anyways. And around that time, people are going to be very aware that firefighters were just fired. And maybe, like you said, it doesn't sound, it's a lot of money, like to us, right? But I think the city is capable of figuring something out. And it's all really depends on, is the mayor and the city council willing to look at other areas and say, okay, well, look, we could pay the firefighters if we cut X, Y, and Z, or if we scale this back, or, different things like that.
And this is a good chance for individuals to go out there and look at the city budget and start seeing, in terms of scope, what they spend the money on, and we've done this a number of times ourselves too, when things like this come up. It's like, well, look, here's a place where something could be reduced. Here's a place, do you think this is necessary? I think that's a good thing, because rarely do we feel motivated to get in there and do the dirty work of, keeping up with these people and pushing them to do the job that they're tasked with. And so part of the thing to be armed with to do that is knowledge. And if we know they're wasting money, or maybe arresting people with victimless crimes, or they're wasting money on this or that, you might say, hey, you cut this. And
imagine how much money the city could save if the mayor and the police chief and, the district attorney has already said, hey, we're going to do a soft decriminalization of cannabis. What if they said, hey, we're no longer going to spend resources on locking people up for
Class C misdemeanors.
Cannabis for victimless crimes, or maybe they could go bold like Denver or Washington and say, hey, we're going to decriminalize all drugs. I'd never see that happening in this city, but just imagine the amount of money that could be saved, and then you'd have firefighters, right? So that when your house is on fire, you have help, instead of, knowing that, well, we're going to have to cut a bunch of firefighters, but we'll still be locking people up for, a victimless crime. I don't know. Maybe there's other ways to go about this. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And like Micah said, also, just knowing the budget is a huge thing. Like, if you can just start being aware of what's going on in the city, then you can be the people who go to city council or write them emails or call them or whatever and say,
and when
hey,
they start saying, oh, we can't do this and we can't do that, well, you got the money for the paper clips.
Yeah, I just looked at the budget, and it says that you're spending however much money going out fine dining or whatever.
Fluoride.
Yeah, fluoride in the water costs over $1 million. That could, it's a small start, but that's the thing is, like, are they even looking, right? Like, or is it just throwing hands up and saying, we can't do this?
We can't cut anything,
Yeah.
I've read, we're talking about Class C misdemeanors to take us a little bit in a different direction. It turns out that Class C, I wasn't just throwing it out there, but in the Texas Observer, they're claiming that police arrest and jail people for Class C misdemeanors at an alarming rate. In fact, it's the 6th most common charge for Texans in jail. Basically, traffic arrests, Sandra Bland type things. So it's something to think about. When we talk about maybe not jailing people on Class C misdemeanors like this. Also, there's a number of times that these sort of traffic stops have gone violent. And
oh God, I got one to talk about later.
Yeah, and it turns out that Austin is actually one of the worst places for violent traffic stops. I read just last month, March 9th, out of Austin, that they are there. The Austin police are worse than any other agency for that, and traffic stop arrests are a growing problem. Looks like the legislative session is trying to do something about this, but I'm not exactly sure what's going to come from it. So it sounds like there's this bill, House Bill 482, that Sinfronia Thompson, Democrat out of Houston, is trying to help push forward. Which would basically end Class C arrests, decriminalize marijuana possession, and end debtors' prisons. So
nice. That sounds like a worthy cause.
So talking about opening up and freeing up some room for people to have a life and move forward, and so.
Word. Well, I don't have too much Houston stuff, so if you got more Houston stuff, you can go on that, because I have a national story that I think will probably get some of our callers interested in. And calling in to hear their opinion. I think you will as well, Micah. It has to do with guns.
Opinions. Guns, bump stocks, Supreme Court.
It has to do with guns and laws being passed, and wouldn't you know it, some sheriff saying, I'm not going to support. But we'll get into that in a moment. I'll let you get Houston and Texas news.
I think I've had enough.
Yeah?
We should hear some music.
All right, yeah, we can go to a song and come back.
Johnny's on the phone. We can't even go to a song.
Let me get our conversation started then, because I just saw this just a couple days ago. Thought it was interesting. Reported on April 1st, Colorado sheriff vows to sit in jail rather than enforce proposed red flag gun confiscation. And we've talked about these red flag laws before. They started. One's already been passed in the state of Maryland, which requires, a whole lot of different things. But basically, you could have your guns taken if somebody just calls you and calls the cops and says this person has a mental health problem. It could be your ex-girlfriend.
So could you just have like activists that are just calling anyone they ever knew?
I mean, if you piss somebody off, you could definitely end up in a case where they're trying to just get at you and try to take your guns away. We got a call.
Yeah.
Let's go to our caller then.
Why not?
Who do we got on the line?
Hey, you got Wayne on the line.
Hey, Wayne, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, guys. How y'all doing?
Not too
bad. Who am I
man.
speaking to?
This is Derrick, and I'm here with Micah.
Okay, Derrick and Micah. How y'all doing this evening?
Pretty good, bro.
I hear y'all talking about the prop being the mayor and this situation the mayor finds itself in.
Yeah.
And mayor could have saved himself a whole lot of trouble if he'd just came out and said when that was all did and done. And all the previous mayors since him that has tried to not say what was wrong with that situation they had there, and that's that bill that they passed some 20 years ago about the cap on the city's revenue you could take in from tax dollars.
Yeah.
It was a bad deal then. It's a bad deal now, and it's hindering the growth of this city. And until the mayor and whoever becomes mayor face that fact, it'll still be the same problem. It's going to be the same problem. You can talk about cutting here, cutting there, and all of that there. But if you don't have the money, you cannot run a city on the cheap. You cannot have a prosperous city and don't pay for it. Plain and simple.
So do you think we should have higher taxes?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying, do you think that the answer is to raise taxes in the city, or is that what you're getting at?
You're going to have to. If you don't have the money, where it's going to come from?
Well, did you hear our suggestion?
You can't cut everything. That's the whole problem. The problem is now that you may be advocating that we cut something from something somewhere else. Then when we cut that from there, something else is going to go like it. You're going to still have the same problem. You cannot raise and do anything in this city, especially the city of Houston, without the proper revenue.
Well, we appreciate that, Wayne.
That law is that one that hinders the growth of this city. And that is that law that they passed to cap the revenue in this city.
Yeah, in 2004.
Until we get rid of it. we're going to continue to have this problem. That's it, plain and simple. There's no other way to explain it. So I don't have a problem with paying a little few extra taxes because I definitely don't want to pay a garbage bill on a monthly basis. That's another utility bill.
Well, we appreciate your insight, Wayne. Thanks for calling in, and we're here every Friday, so we hope you'll stay and tuned in with us.
Definitely, and we're going to talk about that just for a little bit after you get off the line here with us.
Talk about it more than that. I mean, people just going to have to realize you're going to have to take that cap off.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Wayne. Have a good one.
I think we got one more caller. Micah, what were you going to say before we go there?
Yeah, for sure. I want to make sure that we do talk about the bill that Wayne was talking about. Voters okayed the revenue cap in 2004, amending the city charter to limit the annual growth of property tax revenue to the combined rates of inflation and population growth. I mean, I understand about, like, you want to keep being able to bring in more and more revenue no matter what your business is, but there's a point, right? Like, so this is accounting for raising taxes for inflation, right, to increase to get the same percentage, right, and to also account for population growth. So I do think that's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't understand how we could never cap taxes. Should there be no limit?
Well, let's go to this next caller and see what they got to say, and we'll continue that. Who do we got on the line?
Roland.
Roland, how are you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
Not too bad. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to comment on the fireman pay issue. I want to support the mayor. He's the one that knows what expenditures we have. Number two, I don't think firemen and policemen have the same level of danger in their work. That's why policemen are paid more. Number three, if a fireman wants to get police pay, we're short on police. Sign up. You can have the job. Our police are sitting ducks on their bikes and cars every day for people that want to just shoot them. They have to deal with nasty people every day. There's no comparison in the job policemen do. It's like having a technician wanting to get paid what a high-level senior engineer gets paid.
What was your name again? Roland?
Yes.
Yeah.
Roland, I appreciate your calling in. Do you find often that the officers, when they're sitting on their bikes, that they're just regularly facing people shooting at them?
No, but we all know, and you know, there's been many, many news reports of our officers being shot across the country.
I mean,
and in Houston, in their cars, or they're approaching people. Always, people of color, brown and black, are talking back to them, disrespecting them. As soon as policemen start taking issue, they start filming. Firemen don't have to deal with half the issues our policemen deal with. And in a scuffle with a thug, all it takes is one grab of the gun and that policeman's dead. They put up with a lot. There's no comparison in the stress and danger on the job. No comparison.
I appreciate that, Roland. Thank you for calling in. We welcome all thoughts and opinions on here, and we welcome any other calls. Appreciate it.
Okay, guys.
Definitely. Thank you, sir.
I wanna go ahead and we'll
just
add
reflect on.
Yeah, we'll just reflect. We had Wayne. Thank you, Wayne. We had Roland. The reason I asked that question to him is because he said police face shootings, they face nasty people, and I won't deny that. Being
Certainly
out there,
not.
you're going to deal with all kinds of people, especially people who are out of their mind or whatever. I don't know how to quantify when he says that we've seen many, many reports of police being shot at because, I don't know. I just...
Well, we're not going to deny that that's in the news.
There have been police shootings, right? We'll say that. But, I would also say that I could just search right now and find...
I do think one point does need to be brought up.
Literally 50-plus articles of cops beating people
I think
up.
the biggest thing that needs to be brought up with regard to Roland is it's not the everyday firefighter and the everyday police officer that Proposition B is even dealing with. And that's part of the problem is people think that it's every firefighter getting the same pay. It's about the executives. The executives, the ones who are in the air-conditioned offices, not out there on the bikes, not out there facing people, ready to film them and, not out there sweating to do what they think is a good job. Just the same thing like the firefighter in the fire sweating. He's not going to get a raise either. Only the executives are going to get a raise here. And that's one point I want to make sure that we make clear because Roland, he had some points, and I'm not trying to invalidate those points. We're going to talk about that. But I do want to point out that the fundamental assumption that every firefighter is getting a raise is wrong.
I think it's also difficult for any of us to Roland said we, so I don't know if he was a police officer himself or he just speaking kind of Houston or whatever. But, firefighters are also, they're literally running into fire.
We just had a fire.
There's a chemical fire going right here. And, we're only a couple months away from HPD murdering two people who had nothing to do with the charge, the Tuttle case. And I'm not saying, again, that's all cops, right?
No.
I'm not trying to paint anybody with a bad brush.
But it was a nationwide case.
One of the conversations we had related to that is that the cops aren't being trained well enough, right? And that's why these things are happening. One of the stories I want to get into in just a little bit involves a cop, several cops beating people, and this is in Albany, New York, and actually being charged with felonies, which is very rare.
Well, they're breaking the law, right?
Yeah, for breaking the law, but they're not typically held accountable.
Yeah,
but if a firefighter, if it's called to a fire and then they just say abandon their duties,
put the hose down.
Yeah, they put the hose down. You'd think they would probably be held accountable, but for the firefighters, for the cops, they're typically not held accountable. Or if they are, it's like, oh, we get off, they get paid vacation or something like that.
Yeah.
And the thing that I've seen more, I think that what's going on is that the mayor is very closely tied to, as most politicians are, to the police lobby. And people are afraid to say anything negative about the cops because if you're a candidate and you're running and you're perceived as anti-cop in any way, you better believe they're going to organize that, the thin blue line is going to come after you.
And wouldn't it be nice if it was just people violating people's freedom?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm against anybody violating anybody's freedom, beating people up, whether you're wearing a badge or not. The whole point
and
is
that's what I think, if you're wearing a badge, you ought to be defending.
And being a cop wearing a badge does not grant you extra rights. So that's all I'm saying.
It doesn't. In fact, you kind of lose some in a little bit of a way, because when you're on job there, you can't just do
you're
what
a public
you want.
servant.
Yeah.
You're no longer just and in fact you're supposed to be held to a higher standard. And he also mentioned one other thing that I want to touch on.
And I have a lot of respect to the officers who do hold themselves to a higher standard. There have been some that I've met as an activist that actually did bother to defend our right to be on the street. And
we've been arrested and roughed up by others as well. So
met on horseback, and
we've had all kinds of interactions. The other thing that I do want to say is because
you can't judge the class.
He kind of said something about like, well, they're dealing with people coming up and filming them. It's like, yeah, that's perfectly legal, Roland. No, I just want you to hear this. It's perfectly legal, and I would encourage everybody to film cops, not because you're trying to distract them or discourage them or attack them or whatever, provoke them, yeah. But because, when you drive by and you see somebody getting pulled over, at least for me, and I think some of you out there would agree, my thought is, did that person really do anything wrong? Are they okay? Why are they being searched? Why are they surrounded?
Look, 2,000 cases are in review over that shooting case now.
Exactly. So now we're going to see, did this officer who lied about the Tuttle case, did he lie about other things? And I know we're kind of getting away from the main point here, talking about the firefighters and property.
We got another call.
But he brought up a lot of points that I think need to be addressed. That I don't think is as simple as saying, hey, the cops work harder.
And we're really thankful for that call, because a lot of people have some of those views, and there's some things that have to be considered. The sympathy there about it is a rough, dangerous job, right? Well, but also at the same time, the fundamental assumptions about what Prop B was.
Yeah, let's go to this last call and we're going to get a song and come back. Who do we got on the line?
This is Dave.
Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Dave on a mobile.
How you doing?
Good.
All right, well, what's on your mind?
Well, look, I just turned it on and I was listening, so I don't know if I missed anything. But you said, or somebody said that these raises are going to the administrative people in the fire department?
To the what? Well, you cut
executives.
To the executives?
Executives or administrators?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Micah was saying that it's the executives.
It's not every firefighter that's going to get a raise.
Yeah, it's the executives who are arguing this out.
I get that. This is my point, though. When Sylvester Turner is talking about letting go of fire personnel, he's talking about letting go of rank and file and like new hires and
the cadets
and people that are
shutting down stations too.
Yeah, but I don't get that. I just don't get that. I don't know if I've heard anybody say anything about that. They're talking about giving raises to executives, but to make
he's saying the only way he can do
these raises, they're going to cut rank and file, new hires, and stuff like that.
That's a very good point.
You can explain that.
That is a very good point. I'm really glad you bring that up, because it seems like there'd be a lot of other places to cut from than from the main effort, the fire department, that was trying to be shored up and made stronger, So I think that, you bring a very valid point. Thank you so much for calling in and offering that up for the dialogue for the audience.
No problem.
And I think, his other good point there is that, and we've talked about this often, is that, the people who make the decisions, the people at the top, right, they are typically not affected by this. But the people who suffer are the people at the bottom, right? So in this example, it's very clear. The 67 new cadets who've been waiting to be sworn in to go out there and fight fires, who maybe
start their job,
who maybe could have been over there helping with this chemical fire, for example, have just been on hold while the city debates and argues about what's going to happen, and meanwhile they're going to be the ones who get cut while the people at the top still get the benefits, and that's a great point. Let's go to some music. We've been taking calls. We'll be back in just a moment on Freethinker Radio. If you want to call in, 713-526-5738. What do we got coming up, Micah? What do you got in the...
One of 3 songs. I'll tell you who it is next, though.
All right, well, we're going to jam one.
All right. Long-time Houstonian, Persef One, serious good music. You can listen to so much of it out there on SoundCloud. But you can also make it over to Axelrad tomorrow and catch Persef One live with Hesher. Yeah, a show. How about that? You like how I squeezed that one in there?
I like shows.
Yeah. That was a good song. I swear they had this great song with Josiah Gabriel, and I really wanted to play it, but it just got to like some F-bombs right in the middle. And because of the FCC, and we haven't talked much about it here on FM, you know.
If you want us to play your music, you got to at least censor the F-bombs. We're not telling you not to use them, but you got to at least send us a radio-friendly version. But you're back here on Freethinker Radio. We got about 25 minutes left with you if you want to call in at 713-526-5738. I'm going to get back into that story I was covering before we had our callers, and this one I definitely want to hear your opinions. So, as I was saying, a couple months back, Maryland, among other states, have started to consider, and Maryland actually passed what are being called red flag gun laws. And what this means, as Micah and I were saying a couple months ago, if somebody if somebody has some concerns against you or about you, whether legitimate or otherwise, they can call the cops, call the health officials, and say, I'm concerned about this person. They've said some crazy things on social media. They told me something in confidence, whatever, and they have guns. And
couldn't there just be some group of people in a call center just calling on every gun owner?
That's the difficulty here, because once the phone call has been made, then you're going to get a cop at your front door, you're going to get a social worker, and your guns can literally be taken from you. And there's, of course, a process that goes along with it. But so this idea has started to catch on across the country as more cities and states are starting to consider these red flag laws. And just a couple days ago,
Minority Report.
Weld County Sheriff in Colorado, Steve Reams, told CNN that he's willing to go to jail in his own jail, to be a prisoner in his own jail, rather than enforce the law that he believes is unconstitutional. He said the bill in Colorado would allow a family member, roommate, or law enforcement officer to petition a judge to take someone's firearms if they're determined to be a threat to themselves or others. And again, there's a lot of kind of subjective language.
Yeah.
Who determines that? What is a threat exactly? And at what point? Sheriff Reams said, though, that if he believes the bill violates constitutional rights and, quote, it misses the whole point and is trying to bring attention where the true issue is, and that's mental health. And this is the rest of his statement. He says, my fight against this isn't to protect the firearm itself. It's not a purely Second Amendment stance. There are so many violations of the Constitution in this bill. Anyone who has an understanding of the Constitution should read this bill and be concerned. It's House Bill 19-1177. Also known as the Red Flag Bill or Extreme Risk Protection Orders Bill, and it already passed the Colorado Senate last week, and it may have already passed the House. This article's a couple days ago, so it may have already passed the House and be headed to become a law. And then I have a New York Times report.
It turns out in the Colorado, one quick thing, it turns out that you don't have to be living in the state to make the call. There is no hearing.
You call from across the country or across the
There's
world.
no hearing, just this information, the text of your call. And
I'm
the
friends
judge.
with somebody on Facebook, and they said some things that I think could be. They posted a picture with themselves with a gun, and I think that they should be looked after. New York Times says when sheriffs say no, disputes erupt over enforcing gun laws, and this one's talking about a similar thing in New Mexico and Oregon. And again, more and more sheriffs and law enforcement officers saying, no, we will not enforce this. And Micah,
I like it when this
Micah and I
happens.
are big fans of when local governments, city governments, state governments, county governments stand up to the federal government or even stand up to the higher authority.
Because after all, that's what they're supposed to be doing. Hey, we got a call.
And one more I want to get on this. This one is NPR just about a month ago. When sheriffs won't enforce the law. This is an example of Washington
Which law,
State.
the Constitution?
So we've heard Washington State, Oregon, Colorado, New Mexico, sheriffs all willing to push back against these red flag gun laws. And I think it's a good example. Some of you out there might be familiar with the idea of sanctuary laws, right? Like let's say Houston, Austin, they say, well, we don't want to enforce the immigration laws, so we're a sanctuary city where immigrants can come here and they know they won't be criminalized or taken away. This is the same thing, but for a different issue. It's a local government saying, we don't like that, we're not going to enforce it. Who do we got on the line?
We got a call?
We got a call. All right, well, let's bring on one of the callers if you want to.
Yeah.
Who do we got with us?
Hey, this is Dennis.
Hi, Dennis.
What's
Hi.
on your mind?
Well, that's a very interesting thing that you're commenting on. First of all, I'd like to say that a lot of people in this country think that you're innocent until proven guilty. Completely not true. What I mean by the gist of my call is that I don't think your gun should be removed unless you've broken the law in a way that's significant in that direction. I'd like to mention that about 15 years ago, this guy stalked my girlfriend and myself, called CPS 100 times, and told a bunch of lies about me, caused me all kinds of grief, had to go to court, had my child taken away for a couple of months. When this guy, all he had to do was keep calling CPS and saying that I was a drug-dealing, wife-beating, child-molesting creep and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So I just think it's crazy. You cannot stop every situation, but I would give the weight of it to the individual that has not broken a law that, in order for home defense or that kind of thing, keeps a firearm. And that's my comment. Great show, guys. I'll get off the line.
Hey,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate
Thank
that.
you so much.
And we're going to go to the next call, and I want to add to that, and that's what we were talking about, Micah. The system could be abused. I have had friends as well. CPS gets called on them because of an angry.
And the system wins
friend
either
or
way.
something.
The system wins either way. They handled that many more cases. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The CPS that had to take those children in the interim for those 3 days, 4 days, whatever it might have been, those agents got paid. Who knows what happened to
and
those
tax
kids?
dollars paid
Yep.
for the whole thing.
Yep.
Who do we got on the line with us?
Do we have a caller? Awesome. We got it coming. Hello? Are you with us? Hello, caller?
Yeah,
Who are we talking to?
this is Joyce.
Hi, Joyce.
What's on your mind?
Yeah, I want to make a comment about, I think, your third or fourth caller before who called, and about the importance or the difference between the policeman and the fireman.
Yes, ma'am.
And then he spoke about black or brown people being the most dangerous people to policemen.
I think he said thug.
Yeah, but that is inaccurate. The most dangerous humans to the policemen are the white supremacist groups. They have more weapons. They collect weapons. And they always think about their rights, and they have no desire to let nobody take that. Most people of color I know do not collect weapons. They do not spend a lot of money on weapons. Those who have a lot of money do not use it to collect weapons. So his assessment of black and brown people being the most dangerous people to the policemen, that's totally inaccurate. It's the white supremacist groups.
Well, we definitely appreciate your call and your insight. You know, as far as police officers go, you know, we said earlier they do face all kinds of different threats to their lives in the line of duty. Those threats might come in the form of black, white, brown, all kinds of people.
Other police officers.
And sometimes, other police
like
officers.
That is true, but he did not talk about white people.
But we're going there now.
We agree with that. Well, thank you for calling in. We appreciate you listening in, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of the show.
Definitely. Thank you, Joyce.
Bye-bye.
And see, that's how the dialogue goes. You know, she referenced another caller. We're still on the same subjects. We're able to weave through this stuff, and the dialogue proceeds. You know, the thought's not complete even when the show's over. It's not over, right? And I want to thank everybody for contributing to that. That's so important, such a vital part
and we'd love to hear from you guys. We got just a little more time. 713-526-5738.
Let's talk more about these red
flags. At
flags.
what point should guns be taken away from somebody? Is there a line? You know, like people say
when they force inoculate you, can they take your gun away?
So, well, the guy just said, like, if somebody breaks the law, right? And somebody else might say, well, if we wait till they break the law, and then we get into the whole preemptive, the pre-crime. And you guys remember that movie Minority Report back in the late 90s, early 2000s? Yeah, it's real life now. There are states already using algorithms, police departments already using algorithms. In some cases, they're assigning a threat score. We found this out in San Diego, where the police officers were using social media monitoring software to assign a threat score to individuals, red, yellow, or green kind of thing. And that's a dangerous thing that when we get to that point. But, you know, I understand that there are people out there who may be a threat to themselves and to other people, and I get that, right? But if we're getting to the point where we're just going to start empowering the police to just going door to door to checking to people, I think that's pretty scary
based on a call. That's a witch hunt in a way.
It's pretty scary stuff. And, you know, you kind of touched on the
vaccines.
phone
lines are lighting up.
And a moment ago, Mike, I mean, I'm just as afraid as the cops showing up at somebody's door to take their guns as I am somebody showing up at their door to try to force vaccinate them. I think anytime that we start empowering the state to be entering our homes
to decide what's best,
it feels like we're going backwards, not forward.
It doesn't feel liberal when the state decides and mandates what we get.
It feels very illiberal, if anything. I think we got a couple callers on the line. Johnny's getting ready for us, so we would love to hear from you guys. Whether
you're
it's
lighting
about
up, you're lighting up our life today.
If you want to talk about Proposition B, you want to talk about 5G, you want to talk about these gun laws, or whatever else is your mind, something related to the show, we'd love to hear from you. Who we got? It looks like Johnny's got a couple of calls. All right,
He's busy.
Who we got with us?
Hello, caller.
Yes.
Hi, who we have with us?
This is Jay.
Hey, Jay.
What's on your mind?
How you doing? You were talking about the firefighters that they're asking for the equal pay with the police department.
Yeah.
You have to tell them like it is. You know, the numbers don't lie, you know. All the fire departments calls, they get over 85% is EMS that they ask for the ambulance. So firefighters, they're asking for 29% raise. If the city doesn't have the money, I mean, if they have to find the money somewhere in their budget to pay them, how can they, I mean,
it's perplexing.
They ask for 29% raise. They don't want to even compromise to go like 3% or 4%, whatever. So
it's.
I don't know what how you guys are. Your view is that you're kind of defending the firefighters that they have a right to ask for 29% raise. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, we appreciate that call. What we're defending is the people of Houston who voted for this law. We appreciate your call, though. We're going to go to our next caller now.
And I'll add that we're not necessarily even defending that vote. It's just what happened.
It's just that's what the people wanted, and that's how a democracy is supposed to work. Who do we got on the line with us?
Caller?
This is Larry. I wanted to call in. I kind of sympathize with the guy that called in a few minutes ago about somebody making bogus phone calls.
Yes.
In 1985, 4th of July weekend, there was a DPS officer got murdered in Sugar Land. That weekend, I was at Lake Conroe all weekend, but somebody called the police and told them that I was the one that did it. So, needless to say, I got arrested and got roughed up. And then when they realized that I wasn't the person that they were looking for, they very quickly released me. When I found out who had made the phone call, I called in and reported, and they did absolutely nothing to that person. So it's kind of scary that somebody can make a phone call, and the next thing you know, you're locked up. I'm lucky to even be here today because the officer that did arrest me had it in his mind to shoot me so that he would be the hero that killed the guy that killed the cop in Sugar Land.
Oh, my.
Wow, that sounds like a very stressful experience. We are thankful you're here and sorry you had to deal with that. You're right. Those are the kinds of things we might hear if these red flag laws pass, where more people might be harassed unnecessarily. And
just a phone call.
And, that could end up being another Tuttle situation that just happened here in Houston where cops go to the wrong house or for the wrong reason and people end up dead.
Exactly.
It's dangerous.
And I was told a few weeks after all of this went down that I needed to make sure that I found a different way home at night. And that if I did get pulled over, to make sure that I pulled over into a gas station or a grocery store.
Wow.
So that there was a lot of people around because the officer had threatened to take my life because I filed the lawsuit against the city and against the police officer.
Holy crap, that's crazy. Well, thank you for your call. We appreciate it. And stay safe out there.
I keep supporting the station. I appreciate the job y'all are doing and all the other DJs.
Thank you so much. That means the world, and thank you for joining the dialogue.
Bye.
All right, let's go to our next caller. We'll probably just spend next time on calls.
We got Mr. MOD.
MOD, all right, checking in. What's up, MOD?
Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, man, I just started listening about several minutes ago, but yeah, guys, just let people.
You need to sign up for the
text.
text.
Matters, right? So the snitch thing is called Fusion Center. There's a couple hundred of these offices throughout the states. So it's scary. There are laws in the books that, if they actually would use them, a lot of our problems we're witnessing now wouldn't be so severe. But the lobbying on both, parties of manufacturers there's no difference. So I'm more concerned about the dialect of, people start tattling on each other, and this becomes, like you said, a minority point, what that movie is.
Yeah.
One more thing, that I might tell this, Derrick, to you a couple of weeks ago, that these fusion centers is what Eric Prince approached Trump in 2016, right before he was elected, to use as a model that they have called a Phoenix program. It's something that was used in Vietnam, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm throwing out garb at you, but just, keep the conversation going. I appreciate it.
Hey, we appreciate it, brother. And definitely, everybody, if you haven't heard of fusion centers, they are in Texas. If you've never heard of that, you should definitely do some research because they're data mining centers, and it's sharing information from local to state and federal officials, and it's only increased in the last decade. Thanks for your call, brother.
All right, bye.
All right, well, I think that's we'll see if we get any more callers in the next few minutes, but okay, cool. We're winding down now. We're going to play a little more music and get out of here. One other thing I want to say is Facebook has started to call for regulating the internet, and Micah, I feel like this is something we talked about,
8 years ago.
I feel like if you listen to Freethinker Radio, then you might be ahead of the curve, because it seems like we are kind of we're good at seeing. If you
just say so much stuff, it's like monkeys in a room.
Every now and then, one of them are right. I think we got one last caller, and then we're gonna shut down the calls for the night. Who do we got on the line? All right, who we got with us?
Hello, caller.
Hey, this is Jay.
Hey, Jay.
Hey, yeah, I was wondering, what is it about the American mindset that wants to be so different than everybody else around the world that we ignore the fact that many first world countries have really strict gun laws and they don't have any gun deaths, not even on the same scale, not even close as America. And also why we don't educate ourselves on the reason that the right to bear arms is in the Bill of Rights and that it's outdated.
I don't know that that's an exclusive American problem. I know a lot of foreigners who love America's gun culture and who wish that they had that. They're kind of a little sad that their countries don't give them that liberty. But I guess it differs person to person. I'm looking at some gun deaths here, and I see Brazil is ahead of the United States. I see Mexico a little bit behind, Venezuela. And obviously there are other places that have gun deaths, or sometimes they have knife deaths. I don't know if you've heard about that. When people get their guns taken away, they switch to knife attacks, and then it's like we should take all the knives away, and then they switch to rulers, and then we should take all the rulers away. And
well,
then
you can't do. It's a whole lot harder to do mass killings with knives and rulers, though.
I don't know. I've seen about 20 people killed with knives, but I get your point, what
Box
you're going
cutters.
at. But what we're trying to say here is, do you feel comfortable with the idea that somebody could just call on you and come to your house and check up on you? It seems like the American Revolution was fought to keep soldiers out of our houses and to keep the government and the authorities from being able to come into our bedrooms and into our houses, into our privacy. That doesn't bother you at all?
Oh, that bothers me, absolutely. I think there needs to be less involvement of the government into our private lives. But then again, I also believe on the other side of that is if we're not going to have stricter gun laws or stricter policy of who we allow to even own a gun and what kind of guns and the modifications that can be done to a gun, where do you go next?
All right, well, thank you so much, brother. I think the balance is somewhere in the middle. We hope you'll listen. We're here every Friday from 3 to 4 p.m., man.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely want to get into the conversation, have these different perspectives, have the other callers sounding off on them. We'll be back on the other side of the weekend, Monday. On the HD.
See you
we
Monday.
have 2 hours, so we can go into these topics in a lot more depth, into the calls for a lot longer, and have more music.
Yeah, visit thehoustonfreethinkers.com to get this archive and much more. Until next week.
Monday.
Till Monday. You're powerful. You're beautiful. You're free.
We love you.
Peace.
This is Ghost Ship Ritual.
Yeah.